2021. I'm in year 12, coronavirus had just shut down school. I just left a 3-year relationship. I had no job, no money, I was skinny fat. I spent all day playing Minecraft while I should have been doing online school. Without sugarcoating it, I was basically depressed for the first 5 months of this year. And I remember just thinking like the world owed me something. And then I don't know what switched up, but in about May, I remember I just sort of woke up to myself and I realized that this wasn't a sustainable state to be in and that I just needed something to change. I think at the time, the thing that was really affecting me the most was the breakup. And in my mind, the best thing that I could do to really get over it and just piss off my ex was to just get jacked. So I'd always wanted to go to the gym, and I remembered a few years before this, I actually bought a bench press and it was sort of just in the garage collecting dust. So this time I sort of rigged up a broomstick with some milk cartons that I filled with water, and then every single day after school, I would just get home and I would just do any exercise that I could think of. And I actually really enjoyed doing this. So I eventually collected enough milk bottles to the point where I actually needed to go out there and buy some weights. So after school one time, I stopped off at the scrapyard and I bought some weights and a bar. And then from there on, I actually started making some decent progress. So within a few weeks, I was benching about 60 kilos, which is nothing. But at the time, this seemed crazy because the most I could ever do before this was literally just the bar. So since week after week, I was just hitting PRs on the bench press and in all my other lifts, I needed someone to spot me. So I'd always ask my brother to come into the garage and help spot me on the bench press. And doing this every day, he just witnessed me getting stronger and stronger week after week. And always the weaker twin by just a little bit. And just in this few weeks of training, I ended up becoming miles stronger than him. So I'll get into why this is important a little bit later. But basically a few weeks after this gym phase, we got kicked out and I was forced to move about an hour away. And without my license, I was basically stranded an hour away from school, my friends, my hometown that I grew up in, and it would take an hour-long bus ride to and from school every day. And this gave me a lot of time to reflect. I don't know if some people can relate, but my entire life, I really had no time without distractions like video games, partying, or even just having music in my ears. So I never really had time to sort of sit down and actually just think. And basically at this point, I had 2 hours every day where I was just sort of sitting there and just thinking and just reflecting on my life and where it was going. And I sort of just came to the conclusion that if I just continued this hedonistic lifestyle, repeating the same things, hanging out with the same friends, I would just go nowhere. So it was right after this point that I almost wanted to change my entire identity. So I thought the best way to sort of debut this new Will was to just shave my head off. But honestly, it wasn't that deep. I just sort of hated having hair, so I just shaved it off. But it almost did set the stage for this new life that I wanted to live. So I had about 6 months left in year 12, which is the last year of school in Australia. And I think I basically just spent that last 6 months in my head. And if anyone's just watching this that saw me at school in this stage, I was sort of just AFK, because the only thing that I was really thinking about this time was almost just disappearing from my old life, and I just wanted to detach from it completely. And I don't even think I told anyone that I'd even started the gym, to be honest, because I knew I'd get flamed for it, because I'd literally get the piss taken out of me for bringing protein shakes to school. The thing is though, I never really cared about the opinions of any of these people because I always had my brother. And see, at this point, he wasn't actually in school. He'd dropped out and he'd started working. But along the lines, I'd actually convinced him to join these garage gym workouts with me. And honestly, it became the only thing that I'd really think about all day, was just going home, blasting Tevez in my gym. The OGs will remember Tevez. And it sort of just became my second life away from my old one. And for those next 6 months until I finished school, I sort of did just disappear. I didn't really talk to many people. I didn't post anything on social media. I didn't have any girlfriends. It was sort of just school, gym, school, gym. So after 6 months of basically just putting my head down and just being AFK, lifting and watching gym videos all day, the time had come that I'd graduated school. And at this point, it was sort of hard to hide the fact that I was going to the gym because I'd made some pretty decent progress. People would be asking what I was benching and shit. And it's not even like I even looked like I lifted. It was just because I don't think a single other person in that school even went to the gym. So I sort of just became that gym guy. At this point, I was just honestly so keen to just fucking leave school and start making money. But it was after this point where everything almost went to complete shit. So after I left school, I basically just started working with my brother as a bricklayer's laborer. And even though this was probably the worst possible job you can get, I was so keen to start making money. I bought my first gaming computer and I got all the essentials and all the stuff that I've always wanted to get in school. But then I sort of realized I could use this money to buy other stuff. And conveniently in Australia, when you graduate school, it's also the same age that they legalize drinking and clubbing. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this. Yes, I pretty much got addicted to alcohol and clubbing and just going out and getting dopamine from partying and just even hanging around the older guys at work. You sort of just get into that culture of work during the weeks, live for the weekends, spend all your money at the clubs or the bars. Even though I was doing all of this, I was still addicted to the gym. I was still consistently going to the gym, even when I was hungover. But the problem is that I'd say at this point, my mental health had basically returned to what it was like before I started lifting. So I'd say about halfway through 2022, everything changed for me. Now, I'm not gonna say I had some holistic awakening or anything like that. Realistically, what happened is the man, the myth, the one that pretty much started it for most people in this industry, Hamza, came up on my YouTube recommended. God knows why this came up. Maybe it was just honestly sent from God in my YouTube recommended, but basically this was like a caveman discovering fire. And as I started to watch more of this self-improvement content, it sort of got ingrained into my brain that there was more things to improve on than just my physique, and I could apply the same things that I've done for my physical health and strength for my mental health and strength, if that makes any sense. So basically this was just almost like the second phase for me. I got pretty much the same feeling of hope that I got when I first started lifting, but for my mental health instead. This was almost, phase 2. I did the same thing again. I slowly cut out all the bad friends that I had. I stopped clubbing and going out as much. This is the point where I started up this YouTube channel and started really making it my purpose. And I sort of started to just cut out all the bad habits and bring in good habits. And I did this all the way up until about mid 2023. And it was at this point where I'd say I was honestly living just a completely different life. I'd gone completely sober for 200 days. I cut off all the bad friends that I had. I honestly felt zero need to party or drink ever again. I moved out of home with my brother. I'd grown to about 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I forgot how to even really play video games. I started up boxing. I fell back in love with growing my clothing brand. And now in 2024, sitting here, life is still amazing. And I've just been continuing on this same path. And it's crazy to think about the person that I used to be just 3 years ago. Going back to what I was explaining at the start of the video, it honestly feels like a completely different person. And it was honestly because of this transition period. A lot of people call it the chasm that you have to cross, which for me was really that point between 2021 and 2023 when it's really difficult because you've got to completely disassociate with everything that you knew. You've almost got to reprogram your entire brain, because it's an entire different life. But once you cross that chasm, it's easy. The last year for me, I've been on autopilot. You just repeat the same things. You just go to the gym, you go to training, you work on the business, you record. It's autopilot and it's an enjoyable life. But most people don't make it past that chasm. And yeah, I dedicate the results to just brutal self-improvement. And I know it literally does sound corny as fuck, but if me at 17, depressed, listening to Lil Peep, could just get up and dedicate himself to self-improvement and then just completely change his life, then you can too. There is no reason you can't do that. If this story time inspired you at all and it just G'd you up, make sure to subscribe, make sure to leave a like. If it was boring, then maybe you can dislike. I don't even think it shows dislikes on YouTube anymore though. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the next video.